This podcast is a presentation of Chapel Valley, a community church. More information from Chapel Valley can be found at www.chapelvalley.org.
Anyway, we did get back from Russia, and I want to just share a quick testimony because I think it sits in with the theme of what's been going on today. And I had a message that I'll just save for another time. When we went to Russia, so it was 2 weeks ago or something like that. And I think it's 28 hours travel time to get to the city where we were going to from when we left. And then we left in the evening. So 28 hours from the evening to get to where we're going. We arrived in Sochi, Russia, the equivalent of, I got to bed at 5 in the morning, their time, and then got up at 9, and then Susie and I, along with the interns, we proceeded to go to a church, had lunch, Susie did a couple hours engaging the people there, and then I spoke till like 7 that night. Then the next morning did the Sunday service, did more seminar talking. Anyway, I ended up having, I think it was 5 hours of sleep in 56 hours. And they kept asking questions, kept making up stuff as answers. Not really. But the Lord really taught me something in that, because it really was a challenging time, and I was kind of I was tired. But I didn't know how tired I was, but it really showed up because everything's stairs. They don't have elevators, moving sidewalks, nothing like that. And so having to go upstairs, the church was at, I think, 4 flights of stairs up to go to church, and you're walking up there, and I just realized how tired my legs were. And they wouldn't normally be that tired. And I was just kind of punch drunk, but yet there was a strength that the Lord was bringing for ministry and a clarity that was really interesting, because I asked the Lord, I said, this is a great opportunity for grace to come. Not ministering in your own strength, but just really to Lord, I'm too tired to make stuff up, in the sense that I can't figure this out, but I'm going to trust for you to flow with me. And prayed with my interpreter. We prayed Ephesians 3:7 that we've been appointed and anointed for this moment to do God's work, and we're going to work together. And basically I said, I'm going to speak from the heart, you speak from the heart. Take what I say, put it in your heart, and say it. Don't get hung up on the words. And I think it really went well, and really made some progress. It turned out to be by far the most difficult trip that I've ever done, and probably the most fruitful. And it was also a transition for me, just learning, on the learning curve, recognizing how things happen. What I wasn't expecting was coming back and being so spent. That was a surprise for me. And not just the physical part, but just like realizing, like, wow, it's not over yet. You have to still process out of that. Yeah, I'm sure you guys know that. Travelers all over the world. But we got to talk with pastors. They did a youth camp 5 years ago. I think the churches there just quit their youth camps. They had fighting with one another. Fellowship's kind of challenging there. Core values are very deep, and as we taught in some of our institute class, core values, you feel that's the way God thinks. You think he thinks according to your values. So when those values are crossed, they just assaulted God. And how can I have fellowship with you if you're going to assault God? But really, it's just values. It's choices. It could be wearing a dress or standing when you pray. They do a lot of standing when they pray. There's issues like, if you have a job and you're a pastor, then you're not trusting God, I can't have fellowship with you because you don't trust God, because that's a core value thing. There's just those kind of things that are there. And so the church had some struggles doing stuff. Well, they had a camp, and they just decided we're not doing it anymore. So this was the first youth camp that in 5 years that was put on. And 12 people, I think, attended the camp, not counting our participants. And out of that 12, 4 people came to the Lord. I believe it was genuine salvations. 5 came to the Lord. And how many water baptisms? 6 water baptisms. Very moving. And they were transformed. They were not the same people leaving that came to this camp. And it showed the churches there the value of getting back together to do camps, that there are people who aren't coming to the Lord if we don't work together. So there was a lot of good stuff in that regard. Well, one of the things that I sensed that is really the climate in which we're entering into, and I was curious, is Russia going to be different than the United States? And the truth is, people are people. People have the same hang-ups. They want the same comfort. They want the same rewards. They have the same inhibitions. You know, culturally, there's a few things that shape things, but basically people are people, right? The Lord built us and designed our frames, and so we share those things. So in that regard, I realized that we really do share a lot of things, and what I sensed that the Lord was doing in our midst, he was actually doing in their midst as well. And they have the same challenge, and the challenge really is for an understanding of what it means to be a disciple of the Lord. What it means to really lay down your life, lose your life, and not only don't try to save it or negotiate it with God, just reckon yourself dead in Christ and then alive unto him and living your life. And I realized just how unsanctified my life is in many parts on all the desires and dreams and wants that I have, that I just realize are major distractions to the Lord, or actually, he can handle it. It's I who can't handle it. It's very hard to serve both the will of God and my will. He tends to win the debate, but he crowds my life a little bit more. And I really realized how much fatigue sets into our lives because we're carrying things that the Lord has not asked us to pick up. And here's the verse that really came to me in Matthew 11:28 through 30. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy and my burden is light. And if I find that my yoke is not easy, I am not in pace with the Lord. Or if my burden is not light, I'm carrying things he hasn't asked me to. And you really discover those things when you are immersed in the will of God, and that will is very demanding. That's when you start to discover all the stuff you've brought into that. Get what I'm saying on that? Now, the upside was they fed me really well. I didn't go to camp. I went and spent some time with other pastors. So Susie and all the ELN students went to camp. They didn't have the same experience I did once we parted ways. I am not kidding you. I am certain that they fed me over 5,000 calories a day. It was crepes rolled up in sausage with cream sauce on it. That was breakfast. And then, so you eat it, and then they see that you eat it, so then they bring you a mid-morning snack, and then lunch, and then a mid-afternoon snack, then supper, and here's some cupcakes before you go to bed. And I remember just being, I'm so full, and I can't get unfull, and I was just full for the whole time. Came back, I did not gain a pound. And walking upstairs, right. Sleep deprivation and walking upstairs. Well, part of me thought, and I was really not feeling well when I left, and I had no sickness, was fine the whole time, didn't have any afflictions. And I think part of the point of what I'm trying to say is, I think the days of us negotiating with God based on how we think what it's going to cost us and how it's going to turn out, he is inviting us to not have that conversation with him and just discover, Lord, what would you have me to do? And I'm going to trust that your yoke is easy and your burden is light, and that you will walk me through those things, whether it's jet lag, sickness, whatever, and it'll be good. So I came home. I'll end with this. I had my bags, and Some people were wondering if maybe there were bugs around, and stuff like that. And if you know my story about having an infestation in my house, so I got my suitcase in the garage, and I'm thinking, I could just burn the whole thing right there. The loss wouldn't be that great. I wouldn't have to be concerned about importing pestilence into my house and going through that again. And I actually kind of stood there looking at my suitcase. I was standing in front of it. And I thought, this is my house. I am not going to be held hostage by fear, by myth, by the thought of it. And so I just put my hands on my suitcase and I said, in the name of Jesus, any infestation, bed bugs, lice, no-see-ums, whatever might be in this that doesn't belong, I curse you to death in Jesus. Last time I did that, I gave them 24 hours to get out. This time is just, you shouldn't have hitched a ride. And I curse you, so then I took my stuff in and just laundried it. And I thought, this is my house. This is where God's jurisdiction is. And that you didn't bring me through this to just all of a sudden have it fall apart at the end. And then that's the confidence we have. Well, I think the invitation to you and me by the Lord is to just be in conversation with him. Lord, where am I at? If you added, I asked this about the church, and I asked the Russian church, if God added 1,000 people to your church over the next month, would it ruin you? Are you ready for it? Do you have things in place that could handle that? The question isn't how many people are attending right now, it's how many people could attend without ruining your church. That's what SLI is about. That's what ELN's about. That's what our discipleship programs are about, that we could literally explode in growth because disciples are in place, as opposed to just gathering a crowd and then not being able to have that flexibility. And so I asked the Lord my question, if your ministry demands on my life increase double in the next month, is my life structured in such a way that I can move into that? Or do I need to start divesting right now? And I feel like that's kind of the question the Lord's asking us. I'm ready for a new building, totally am. I don't even want to make a carpet joke anymore. I'm just like, I've had it. We're not picking any of them. But then again, it's like, Lord, I appreciate the fellowship we've had in this journey and the struggles. And who I don't know who went to the Marriott today. Somebody might have. It's a casualty in a sense that somebody ended up at the Marriott because we broke down in communication. Those things are very real. And I appreciate those who said, yeah, I missed last week because I went to the wrong place. But you came back. And that you didn't get offended, and you recognize we're in this struggle, and it cost us something to do this. So what the Lord is doing, I believe, is vetting out the disciples. He's vetting us out. The wilderness doesn't have to kill you, but it is going to be uncomfortable. And there's no mystery about the fact that when Jesus was called and given his assignment, that he went into the wilderness and was vetted in that process and came out empowered. And he was literally able to handle both the praise and the accusations of people. He was in that place. And I think, just as a word, that's what the Lord's doing in us, and it's really an exciting moment. And I really do think you don't really get a lot of roadmap instruction when you're in the wilderness. You just kind of hang out until you're let out. And you get a lot of opportunities to take a pathway, but if you're really following the Lord, it's just all of a sudden you see the door because he shines his light on it, and out you go. We're contending for that door, and I believe the Lord has asked us to do that, but at the same time, we're not frantic. And so I appreciate your hearts and your attitudes, and thanks for being in fellowship and taking this journey together. And I think there's amazing things in store. And what we saw today, it's all a part of the fabric that the Lord has woven together to do great things. Great days are right here. They're right here. So I'm excited. All right. I'm going to pray. I think we're a little over time. So I appreciate your, oh, I will say this. I ran it past Marion. She didn't think it would fly here. I spoke for 45 minutes on Sunday, and they were literally angry that I didn't go 2 hours. They were like, I said, spasiba, thank you. I sat down, and pastor got up there. He's like shocked. He's like, well, we're ready. I mean, we're ready for more. I'm like, oh, come home with me. I need a 2-hour crowd. And I really felt they just instantly embraced us. They're like us. They are like you. I think they just sensed a kinship through the team we brought with you guys. I told them we would pray for them.
This podcast is a presentation of Chapel Valley, a community church. More information from Chapel Valley can be found at www.chapelvalley.org.